What's going on, guys? Vulcan here with Velocity Crew, and today we've got a different type of video. We're going to be doing a market analysis on some of our favorite enthusiast sports cars, specifically the BMW E46 M3, the Mercedes-Benz W204 C63 Amg, and the Porsche 991 generation GT3. Let's take a look just for the month of February and see, based off of publicly available information, well, mostly publicly available information, what did the sale prices look like and what do we think these cars are going to do over the long run. I'd like to have like a little database as we go throughout the year and monitor some of the prices, and we'll change the cars that are actually being put into this database, but we'll start with the month of February with these three cars and then we'll just kind of go from there. So definitely let me know what you think of this type of video. It'll be a little different, more of a analytical approach to it versus something crazy action-packed, but you might learn something, especially if you're in the market for these cars. I simply am always browsing the market for a variety of different cars, so I just felt like putting some of this information to good use. So with that, let's get to it. The main thing I want you guys to know is all of these values, basically I just kind of populated it all off of Bring a Trailer results, eBay sold listings, and in some cases where I was unable to get like a decent amount of like public sold listing information, I have access to the Mannheim dealership wholesale auction, so I was able to get those prices of what the cars sold for at wholesale, and in those cases I just added like 5-10% onto the wholesale price because that's kind of like a retail price. So with that, let's get into the E46 M3. Now, if you take a look here at just a quick glance of what February looked like in the E46 M3 world, again, these were just based off of eBay and Bring a Trailer since there were so many different listings. We had 16 total listings. The average sales price for these cars were $23,215, and the average mileage was 90,284. So it just goes to show you that these higher mileage M3s, they're still getting pretty good money. And now if we just look at what those 16 sales look like, you'll see that, of course, the one all the way at the top is a Interlagos blue coupe, manual, low mileage, comp package, slick top. It sold for 48 grand on Bring a Trailer. And the interesting thing here is that it actually had a minor blemish on the Carfax. Now this is probably like paintwork or something really minor that got fixed, but the bottom line is it's not a clean Carfax car. It's getting almost $50,000. Slick top is a rare car in general because it just means that they did a sunroof delete from the factory and just less cars opted for that. So the fact that it has the comp package, slick top, it's a manual car, which is obviously the most desirable one in the enthusiast world. It's a coupe, and Interlagos blue is a pretty desirable color. I'm not too shocked at the price here, given that it's only 46,000 miles. Now, the next car here, it is a Alpine White 03, so less desirable year. The miles are actually relatively high, and this is a car that had the airbag deployed, and it got $38,000. But the only reason that this one got so much money is because it's a fully prepped track car. So it has a roll cage, it has all the necessary, like literally like a race seat. I mean, the whole interior is stripped. It is a track car, but the fact that it's still getting 38 grand, pretty impressive. And the next two cars, again, these are all Bring a Trailer listings. They're two convertibles, one with a Imola red paint scheme, the other one is silver. They were pretty much in the same range, clean Carfax, more or less stock cars. And then as we go down, okay, now we're hitting some higher mileage cars. So you see there's another 05 Interlagos blue, but an 04 titanium silver car. Both of them had over 130,000 miles. The blue one had almost 180,000 miles, and they're still getting low to mid 20s. And they both had something on their Carfax. It's like, it's really interesting. I'm getting pretty excited about this, but it's just kind of cool to see that these cars are going up in value, because a year and a half ago or so, I bought a black 03, it was a carbon black 03 6-speed coupe, and it had 140,000 miles. I paid $8,500 for it. I did the Vanos, a couple other maintenance items. I ended up selling that car and made a little bit of money, and I ended up selling it for like $13,500. So if I would have kept that car, I could have probably made another 2 or 3 grand on it easily, because if you take a look, there's one car that sold for $17,900 all the way at the bottom, and it's a 2002 carbon black coupe, manual, and clean Carfax. So it's very, very interesting. And the two cars that sold for less than 10 grand, one of them needs an engine rebuild because there was a spun bearing, and then the second one is just an extremely rough car. So February 2021, E46 M3 market, pretty strong if you ask me. I think this is going to little by little continue creeping up. So we will have to come back later and see what it's all about. And next up, we've got the W204 Mercedes-Benz C63 Amg. And because, you know, I did the thing, I'm a pretty big fanboy of this car. In fact, if you've watched some videos on my channel, you know I've documented some of the features and different types of W204s and created an ultimate guide. I've owned a couple, so I'm always in tune with the market because you never know. If a good deal comes up, it could be worth getting into. And if we look at the values here, you'll see that there were 18 sold listings at an average price of $29,212 with an average mileage of 69,760. Now, what's interesting about these numbers is because it's pretty much half and half eBay and the other half is auction values. So I had to actually extend my range here, so from November 2020 to February 2021, and I had to go to the Mannheim dealer wholesale auctions because there just wasn't a whole lot of sales information. There was only one from Bring a Trailer in the past few months, and eBay just had more of the newer cars, but I didn't get a really good sense of where the true values were. So I said, well, let's go and see what these things are selling for at auction. And what you'll see here is actually pretty interesting. So at the top of our list here at almost $47,000, we've got a 2014 black coupe. It's an Edition 507 car. So if you know about these cars, Edition 507 is a end of run C63. They're a little harder to find essentially, but very desirable. I think 47 grand for one with 50,000 miles, it's pretty high, but you don't see them come around on the market too much. So if you're someone who's got one for sale, you pretty much have a little bit of command and control over what your asking price is. Now, as you keep going down the list, you'll see it's really monopolized by 2014 and 2015 cars towards the top. But if you go to under 30,000, that's when I think the real value propositions for this car currently come into play. Now, you'll see with the ones that have auction listed next to them, you see a grade. So auctions rate their cars that are sold, and they do a really good job on rating them from 1 to 5. 5 is like it's brand new. 1 is like it's got like structural damage or other issues that are, you know, kind of occurring and what they've observed with that car. But what I would say, simply just due to the fact that the earlier cars are plagued with certain issues. So keep the number 4,000 in your mind. If you buy an older car, so anything before 2011, you've got head bolt issues that need to get fixed and cam adjusters. So that's about a $4,000 to $5,000 job, depending on if you go to a dealership. You might even be able to get it done for under $4,000 if you go to an independent mechanic. But factor that into your price because that was something that they fixed in the 2012 and future cars. Obviously, if you can go and find something less than 20 grand, even for a 2010, I think that would be a good buy. And in my opinion, the value proposition here is if you could find a 2013 for mid-20s, around 50, 60,000 miles, it's just a really solid car. And as you can see, even a 2012 with almost 70,000 miles is still getting $24,000. So I really don't think those 2012s, because that's when the facelift was, I don't think they're gonna go down too much more in value. A buddy of mine, he has driven the heck out of his car. It's a 2012 coupe, over 100,000 miles, and I think he still got like 20 grand for it when he sold it. So these cars, I think they're at a point where they will retain value, but I think they will also little by little start to appreciate because, as you know, Mercedes just announced the next C63 is going to be a 4-cylinder hybrid drivetrain. Sad face. Now, last but not least, we've got the Porsche 991 Variant Gt3. And this is an interesting car because the 992, which is the next generation, it just got announced. So this is going to be the new hot desirable GT3. It comes in a manual transmission. It also has the PDK, but I believe that in the next 5 or 6 months, you're going to start to see a lot of the 991 owners list their cars for sale. And naturally, what this is probably going to do is bring down some of those values because your market's probably going to be flooded with these cars. Now, do I think that it's going to be like a mass exodus of these 991 GT3s and the values are just going to tank? No. But I do believe in some specific areas, you're gonna see some really good deals start to pop up. So just a couple things to keep in mind about the values of these cars. So you have a 991.1 that was made from 2014 to 2016. You can only get it with a PDK/automatic transmission. The 991.2s were made from 2017 to 2019. With this car, you could get a manual transmission. And in the used market, if your car has a manual, it's automatically gonna bring a $20,000 to $30,000 premium. Other things that raise the values of these cars is if you have a paint to sample car, which is a unique color, if you have carbon bucket seats, or if you have the carbon ceramic brakes. Now, looking into the values of the 991.1 in February of 2021, there were 5 sold listings, averaging around $121,000 and an average mileage of 19,000. This is really not a whole lot of data. I didn't really find much on Bring a Trailer. I had to leverage a lot of auction values actually. eBay is not the best place, I'm realizing, for the 991s. But if we look at the 991.2, we had 8 listings. They were all 2018 cars. Average price was 50 grand more than the 991.1s at 175,511. And the average mileage was around 6,300. So obviously, just because it's newer, because you could get the manual transmission, these are going to carry a much higher premium. Now, if we break this down, you'll see at the top of the range here, we've got a Chalk, which Chalk is a paint to sample color, Touring, which is a special GT3 that didn't have a wing on it. It was just a very desirable option. You could spec it from new. But then it also had the carbon ceramic brakes, 1,000 miles. It went on Bring a Trailer for 223,000. So obviously that kind of skews your numbers. But I mean, the 2018s, none of them sold for less than 160,000. I mean, you have one that's 159, but then you have one that was 116, but it had a 2.2 grade. So something tells me at auction that there was probably something just terribly, really wrong with that car. Either it was maybe an accident car or had some other issues. But if we focus towards the 991.1s, you'll see the prices more or less, as the average states, hovers around 120,000. In my opinion, when the 992s come out, I believe that these cars are probably going to drop another 5 to 10 grand. And the main reason for this is because you're typically gonna, I mean, they've been around longer, right? So your natural depreciation, they're gonna have a lot more miles on them than the 991.2s, and dealers typically certify these cars. So you get 2 years unlimited mileage warranty, or sorry, I think with the new certification, you just get a 100,000 mile warranty, but still, people are more inclined to drive these things. So I'm curious to see in the next 2 to 3 months what's gonna happen to the values. My guess is probably gonna come down by 5 to 10 grand, probably across the board. But if it happens on the 991.1, I mean, this is gonna be the best value for money $100,000 used car that I think you can buy. So we'll have to come back and see what happens. All right, guys, so that pretty much wraps up our video today. I know it was a little different from what we typically do, but hopefully you learned something, or if you're like me and you always browse the markets and just see what these cars are going for, maybe this gave you some additional information. So definitely leave a comment, like this video if you learned something or if you just enjoyed it. And if you're not a subscriber on the channel, now would be a great time to do so. Make sure to check out some other videos because we have some pretty diverse content. But I think I want to keep doing these videos just once a month and check in on not only some of these cars, but maybe some other newer cars as well, or just some other cars in general, just because I'm always browsing these markets and might as well put some of this useless information I'm gathering to good use. So as always, I really appreciate all the support, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace.